That's a good ball for Peter Weir. Now Aberdeen with McGee making the break and Hewitt waiting in the middle. Yes!
Countdown to Kickoff is brought to you and supported, as always, by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental, and also by Craig International, a truly global company with 10 offices strategically placed around the world. Look out for their brand new website, which I'm going to showcase to you exclusively this evening on Alibeg AB TV. We're also sponsored by Steadfast Scotland, manufacturers of high integrity stud bolts and special fasteners, globally recognised as your market leader and solution provider for bespoke quality bolting and safety critical components. Tomorrow, the Dons head to the capital, where we face high-flying Hibs, who have been on a really decent run of form recently. We head to Easter Road. Our away allocation, as you would expect, has sold out once again for an away fixture. The fans' support is pivotal as we look to end this miserable league run. Kickoff is at 3 o'clock UK time at Easter Road. Let's put it into context for you. Here's the table. So Aberdeen, remarkably, still in 4th position, only 3 points away from 3rd place. As you can see, Motherwell currently in 6th. A win for them would put them just a couple of points behind us. But tomorrow, after 13 league games without a win, somehow we have got to find a way to win, end this run, and start a winning run ourselves. Hi everybody, how you doing? Sorry I was a minute late or so. I was just sorting out the internet issues here in the studio. A very warm welcome to Alibeg AB TV this Friday night, ahead of our big game against Hibs at Easter Road tomorrow. So this is the preview show. This is all about you. Come on, as always, leave your comments, leave your thoughts. Lots happened today. Press conference. The manager spoke about Ruby. He spoke about the importance of the fans. He spoke about the football club as a whole. I'll be bringing that to you a little bit later. I've got a little snippet from his press conference for you. And also going to be talking to Daily Record sports journalist Scott Burns, who always has his finger on the pulse with what's going on at Pittodrie. So I'm delighted that Scott and I caught up yesterday to chat about comings and goings and what's going on with the football club at the moment. I'll bring that to you a little bit later. So, where are you at with this link with the Italian striker from AC Milan? I have to be honest, looked at his data. His data's not great, I have to be honest. But sometimes I wonder if everything is based by, if everything is driven by data. What I'm hoping is if this deal does get across the line, it's come from a very reputable journalist in Italy who is very highly thought of in the world of football out there. So it will be very interesting to see if this one does actually get across the line. From what I understand, he's not a great goal scorer, but he's got physical presence and can absolutely hold the ball up and bring players into play. And I think that's what we're needing. But I have to be honest, sometimes I wonder in these situations, because we so desperately need a striker, we need a striker who can score goals. We need a proven goal scorer. I've got the stats for you, which are damning in terms of how many goals we have scored in recent games. So sometimes I wonder if looking within might be the answer. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if we need Scottishness about us. Does that make any sense? I really hope it's making sense to you. Because what I'm worried about is that we are going down the path of bringing in too many foreigners. And sometimes I just can't help but think, well, what's happening at our own football club? You know, we've got players who are out on loan at the moment who are doing very, very well. Can we not look a little bit closer to home? Can we not give these kids who are absolutely chomping at the bit to maybe give them a wee go? I understand that at the moment we are in dire straits, and let's be honest, we are. And sometimes we may need a little bit of experience to help guide us through this. But sometimes I can't help but think that real, raw talent might not be such a good thing. I think chuck them in, have a wee look, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I just want that Scottishness about us again, you know? I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Right, I'm going to try and predict the team news. So, don't shoot me down, don't shoot me down. But this is what I've done. I've gone with a back four of Nicky, Christos, Alfie and Alexander. Now, this is where I'm really toying. But I can't help but think that he will play with two holding midfielders tomorrow in Nielsen and Shinnie. It's not what I want, it's what I think he will do. I think he'll start with Jeppe, who I thought did really well last week. Pape in the number 10 role. I think he'll start Duke to have some pace. And I just have a feeling he's going to start Kevin Nisbet against his old team. So that's what I think he will do. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that that is the team that I want, but that is the team I think he will pick. Let me know what you think. So, let's get to the manager's press conference. So this is a snippet taken from Aberdeen socials. Many thanks again to the football club for allowing me to show this. So the manager today spoke about a number of things. He spoke about Ruby. Ruby's been back training this week. Just had a couple of issues that he needed to sort out. I really hope the boy has. I really hope in terms of his mental strength that he's absolutely okay. I hope he wasn't overly affected about what happened last week. I hope everybody at the football club has rallied around him. And I have to be honest, I really hope our support give this guy our full backing and support. Because at the end of the day, he's one of ours. He's one of our players. He's still a very young man. And we need to help him. And I think what happened last week, I'm hoping it was an isolated incident and that it won't happen again. But I don't think he'll feature tomorrow. I think he'll be in the squad, on the bench, but I don't think he'll start tomorrow. The manager also spoke about how to try and get back to winning ways. He also spoke about the Hall of Fame. That was obviously, that was presented last night. So he spoke about that and where he went along and just found the whole atmosphere and support and understanding of what the football club means to the local community and fans a lot more eye-opening. This is what he had to say about it all.
I think like it's not specific Scottish football. It's football. It's a lot of emotions. I was in a Hall of Fame dinner yesterday for 4 hours more or less. And when you go to these kind of things and you see how much the club means for people, when they tell the stories about the journey and the love for the club, I think it was more or less 300 people there, and that's for me is more about expectations there in the football club. It can be some pressure sometimes when it's not going well, but it's also a responsibility you want to take, and you'll be proud to be the manager of this kind of clubs that they trust you, and you have to do a good job. And so I think it's normal in one way, because when you have so much emotions involved, that's why we love this sport. It's so much passion. It's like the feelings coming direct during the game. You follow the game, and sometimes you feel hurt when it's not going well for your team. Sometimes you're so happy when it's going fine for your team, and that's an environment we choose to live in, and we need to manage that one, but still have strong belief in yourself and in the club, in the players, and keep the direction when it's not going well and pushing for that. So sometimes it's good to see also understand the people who support the club, and also be proud of taking the responsibility to try to navigate the club for a stronger future.
So here's your match stats ahead of the game. It doesn't make for good reading. The Dons are winless in 13 league games, the longest such run in our history, while losing 7 of our past 8 and scoring just 1 goal in the past 7 league games. Hibs come into the game on a 9-game unbeaten run in all competitions and have only lost once in 8 league games against us. Saying that, the Dons have avoided defeat at Easter Road in our last 2 games. The last one, of course, was a 3-3 draw. Absolutely kicked in the teeth, which I wonder if that played a huge part in damaging us psychologically. The referee tomorrow is Don Robertson. On VAR is Kevin Clancy. So what I'll do now is I'll just start reading out some of your comments before we get Daily Record sports journalist Scott Burns on, who gave me some really interesting insights to what's going on, particularly in this transfer window, with obviously only a couple of days left to go. But before we do all that, let's just start introducing you guys, see how you're doing. There we go. So the musical box is on saying, hey guys. Kaiser is on saying, by the lot of averages, surely we're getting a win tomorrow. David Horn is on, wishing everybody a good evening. Johnny Wilson says, hi everyone, see we're interested in AC Milan's Marko Lazetic. His goal scoring record is very poor. Raw talent maybe, let's hope so. Kaiser says in response to that, I've got to be honest, I thought we'd signed a couple of players this week. The lad from AC Milan is 21. I really can't see him saving the day. Norman Baker says it will be very worrying if we don't sign a good striker by Monday. Paul Hannon is on, wishing everybody a good evening. Let's hope we end tomorrow with a win. Stand free. And he's just reminding you all to subscribe and to like as well. Thank you, Paul. El Fidelo is on, wishing everybody a good evening, as is Alan Smart. He says, we've all got to realise that it's nigh impossible for us to sign a quality striker in this window. I have to be honest, Alan, I tend to agree with that. David Gold is on, wishing everybody a good evening, as is Neil. Great Pilgrim says, gotta love a player getting bleeped out in a press conference. Let's get a bleeping win tomorrow. That was Yeppy, by the way. Gavin Wilson says, Hibs season turned around after the 3-3 with us. Let's hope ours turns back around tomorrow. Suze is on, wishing everybody a good evening from London. Erica Mitchell also wishes everybody a good evening. I hope and pray to God that we get a win tomorrow. Please, lads, do us proud. Come on, you Reds. Johnny Wilson says, really hoping Yumi changes things up tomorrow and stops going 4-2-3-1. It's not working. Let's go 4-4-2. Give Nielsen and Devlin a week off and stop the marauding fullbacks. Musical Box was expecting a couple of late signings, but he's worried it's not going to happen. Kirstine is on. How are we doing? She says, good evening, Ali and fellow dandies. Let's hope we can get a win tomorrow. Barry Cooler says, evening dandies, hopefully 3 points tomorrow. I did hear that Ruby lost a friend and that was the reason he was taken off. Maybe shouldn't have started if that was the case. Kaiser says, the AC Milan player is alone. What's the point? Matthew Cool says, Matthew made it. Well done, Matt. He says, hope you're well. Let's go for 2 up top. Come on, you Reds. Barry just reminding everybody that the striker that we're linked with from AC Milan has hardly scored any goals. I read a tweet today, which is obviously not a great level of source, but I read that he's not scored a goal in 4 seasons. West Coast Dawn is on, saying good evening. Kenneth McPherson is on, saying fit like. As is Dave B. Phil McInish says, it's not McInish, is it? It's McInch. McInch? Is that how you pronounce it, Phil? I'm so sorry, fella. Thought we'd have had a couple of players in this week. We need a striker and a decent midfielder. He does have the fear for tomorrow. Gavin Wilson makes a nice historical point. In 1905, Aberdeen Football Club joined the Scottish Football League's First Division and began their 16th season in the league. They've remained in the First Division ever since. Never relegated. Nice, Gavin. Good bit of research. Jim Balfour's on. How are we doing, Jim? Trying to stay upbeat for tomorrow. David Gold reckons that Ruby will be leaving us soon. Richard Mickey McMillan is on. How are we doing? Paul Donaldson says, really worried about tomorrow. Can't see where our next goal is coming from. Never mind our next win. Hate to say it, but we'll be doing very well to even manage a draw. West Coast Don says, we're not even going to sign a proven goal scorer in January, let alone the summer, so we need to find unknowns and polish them. Scott Robertson, he says, the laddie from Milan, if he's good enough to be on their books, then he's good enough for us. Get him over here. Can he honestly be any worse than Ambrose? Skuska says, we don't need someone to hold it up. We need somebody to put it in the net. Correct. Jamie Burnett is asking exactly the same thing, same point that I made. What about the Youth Academy, Ali? Exactly. What about them? Right, let's get Scott Burns on. So I spoke to Scott from his home yesterday. We spoke about the Don's current predicament, and I also asked him a little bit about, transfer gossip and if there was anything he could tell us about comings and goings. So this chat is nearly 6 minutes long. I really hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome to the show for the first time, Daily Record sports journalist, Scott Burns. Good morning, Scott. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on. It's really good to see you. I'm going to fire straight in, fella, if you don't mind. I'd like your own opinion, really, on where you think things have not quite gone right for Aberdeen in recent weeks. We're all scratching our heads. To me, it's utterly bemusing. What's your take on it?
Well, when you look at the start of the season during the unbeaten run, when they'd just beaten Rangers and that, I was arguing with fellow journalists that I said, look, Aberdeen look the real deal and look like they can go the distance. Maybe not in terms of winning the title, but certainly been up there challenging at the top end of the table. And at that point, I couldn't see the consistency of Aberdeen. They were winning games, but I couldn't see them losing 2 or 3 games on the bounce. And this to go into this current run is they've just fallen off a cliff. It's just the polar opposite of what we saw at the start of the season. And it's just, it's bizarre because they just seem to have, the manager doesn't like to use the word confidence, but they are short of confidence. And that comes with a lack of wins out with the Elgin Cup tie. And the problem is, they're not in both boxes. The St Mirren game at the weekend was a perfect example. In both boxes, they're falling short. They're not scoring goals, and they're giving away cheap goals at the other end. The St Mirren game, it was 3-0. It looks a fairly convincing scoreline. And in terms of the goals, it was. But see, if you watch that game, in 75% of the game, probably the Dons had possession, dominated, but were basically punished for switching off at the back end and not taking chances at the top end. So from that point of view, and on that performance, I don't think they're too far away from turning things round. Yeah. It's just a case of if they cut out the mistakes, and give themselves, a platform to build on, I think then the results will start to turn. I think all it'll take will be one result, and then you'll see the difference. You'll see the weight lifted off them. But I just think just now there's too many individual mistakes. The manager, if you look at Jimmy Thornton, it's not the same players making the mistakes all the time. It's different players. So it's not as if you could take one out and that would solve the issue. It's been a catalogue of errors. And at the same time, they're not scoring as many goals. And the thing is, like Kevin Nisbet, I don't think he's too far away from firing either. Because in the recent games, he's getting more chances. He went close, he hit the woodwork at the weekend. And like in recent games, the goalkeepers have made decent saves.
Yeah.
I don't think he's far away from clicking either. I don't think it's too far away. But just the longer it goes on, then obviously the more concerning it is, especially with the points dropped and how tight it is behind Aberdeen in the table. But I don't think there's a massive issue. I think with the January addition so far, I think they will improve the squad, and especially that back line. So I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are making out.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I also don't think we're that far away. You mentioned Kevin Nisbet, and I think all Dons fans are singing from the same hymn sheet here, that we all desperately want another striker to come in. Do you think there'll be any movement before the end of the transfer window?
Yeah, in an ideal world, the manager will want at least 2 new players in before the close of the window. Okay. One of them would be a striker, and the other one, as it stands, would be a central defender.
Okay.
So that's the two that they're working on just now. And I mean, I suspect that both will happen, but I mean, they're still trying to. It's not. There's nothing finalised, but obviously that's what they're working towards just now. I would suspect that both would be from overseas.
Yeah.
So that again would complicate the matters in terms of the signing and the sort of timescale on that. But that's my understanding as it stands just now.
Okay.
But I think they're confident they'll get in both fronts.
Okay. Scott, just to finish off, obviously a huge game at Easter Road. I know Hibs have recently had an upturn in fortunes, but I think if we learn from our mistakes from the first game at Easter Road, I'm quietly confident we could get a result. But as you said, we have to cut out individual errors. How do you see it going?
It's an interesting one. I mean, that last game at Easter Road, I covered it. It was just mad. It's one. I mean, it's just a journalist nightmare. You know what I mean? I mean, for the fans, it's great, but like you're thinking that's it. Aberdeen will win the game. Hibs equalise it to death. Aberdeen go up the park again, score. You think that's it,
Yeah.
and then Rocky Bashiri comes up. Another mistake at the end costs another goal. So I think you're right. I think if they can keep a solid base, I mean, they can win the game. There's no doubt Hibs have turned their fortunes round, but I mean, they're not unbeatable. They're not a great side, you know what I mean? But they managed to turn results out, turn the sort of defeats into draws and the draws into wins, I think. So they're picking up points and they're coming and they're cutting the Aberdeen's lead sort of thing, and they'll be looking at top six and possibly European pushes. Yeah. So it'll be an interesting one, but Aberdeen, I mean, if they can keep it tight, they've got a chance. And all it takes is, if you keep it tight, you only need one goal at the other end, sort of thing. But it's got to turn at some point. You know what I mean? They're not, it's not as if they're so badly out of form that, I mean, they're creating chances and they're doing a lot of the right things. And I just, as I said before, I don't think they're too far away. And would it surprise me if they got a result at Easter Road? No, it wouldn't, because I think it's got to turn at some point, and it will sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Scott, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. It's lovely to see you. Have a brilliant weekend.
Thank you. You too. All the best to all your viewers.
Ta-da.
Thank you.
Ta-da. Good morning. My thanks to Scott Burns for coming on. Just before we move on, I would just like to bring this to your attention. So my sponsor, Craig International, who have been with me now for just over 12 months, have got a brand new website. They have 10 offices all over the world, from Houston to Dubai to Cape Town. The future of global procurement is very much safe in their hands. And I would like to continually thank Joint MD Steve McCarty for his continued support with my project here. Steve has been fantastic for me, and I've loved working with him, and it's an absolute pleasure to showcase what they can do for you. So if you are looking for any procurement services, please head to Craig International. You will, honestly, you will thank me. Right. Another couple of things that Scott said while we were just chatting. There's a lot of talk about Lyle Cameron, the Dundee midfielder. So Scott said that he doesn't think that the deal is going to happen now. And he certainly doesn't think that it could happen in the near future. But he did say to me that he doesn't think it's dead in the water, but certainly not for just now. So Scott, thank you so much for coming on. It was great to have you on. Right, let's get back to your comments. So Paul Donaldson was asking, so I'm sure that some of you have seen online the post that was put on about Ruby going to a club in Turkey. So apparently it's a load of nonsense. That's what I got told. I've just been told it's a load of nonsense. Barry Cole says, remember the loan of Fraser Hornby? No, Barry. Alan Smart said, this week Luton had a bid to sign a striker from Wycombe Wanderers. The bid was 7 million quid. Let that sink in. Alan George says, I can't think of any decent Scottish strikers. Norman Baker says, what's the point of having Fletcher Boyd on the bench week after week but never used? I totally agree, Ali. We should give him a go, and others. Gavin Wilson is saying that Mark Lazetic is now valued at 1 million. At one point, he was valued at 3 million. Dave B said, JT mentioned working long term with the youth team to play his style. He noted that he has one eye on the current issues, but also needs to think of the long term and our youth team getting used to his ways. Yeah, I'll take that. Alexander Wallace says, totally agree, Ali. Let the kids loose and the old hands can stew on the bench for a wee while. Roy Thompson says, we definitely lack Scottish players that know the league. Xander Moore is on saying, good evening everyone, have a safe journey tomorrow. We need a striker desperately. I think Fletch should get a start tomorrow. I think he's shown fantastic potential when he's played before. Hope we can win. Come on you Reds. Kaiser says, guaranteed Nielsen will start. Good, bad or indifferent. Phil, Phil, I'm not going to get this right, am I? Phil McAinch. Phil McAinch. I think that's how it is, mate. Don't think Talene will go with two up top. No, I don't think he will either. Matthew Cool says, Nielsen will start 100%. Lawrence Gray says, I don't agree with chucking on young ones. We need results. Lawrence, I totally get you. But I'm wondering if they can contribute to us getting the result that we need. Neil Strachan said, I would play Shady Moore and Keskinen from the start to give us pace. West Coast Dawn says, if Ruby plays, this will test his mental strength. It certainly will, I just can't see it. West Coast Dawn says, I hope Palaversa starts. Neil Sinclair says, I think we need to blend our current team with the young homegrown players who constantly sit on the bench watching poor performances week in, week out. Let them at it. They will play for the journey. John Bleasdale says, hi John, how you doing? Need to bring in Palaversa for Nielsen. The former hasn't been given a proper run in the team, whereas Nielsen has been making too many mistakes, needs taken out for his own good. John, I completely agree, and I would do exactly the same. I just have a feeling he will start as he always does. Kaiser says, just off topic slightly, but I've just realised that Stuart McKimmie is not in the Hall of Fame. Surely that's got to be rectified. He was a world-class right back. Kaiser, I couldn't agree more. Xander Moore says, Ali, have you seen some of the window lickers wanting JT out? The mind boggles. I completely agree, Xander. I completely agree. Funnily enough, I had this conversation today with Terry McDermott. You know Terry, who lives out in New Orleans, the singer. We all know this is a 3-year plan. It's a long-term plan. And that JT will need he's going to need time. We know that. He's going to need his own players. Because let's be honest, he inherited a squad that I think we're all on the same hymn sheet here that we don't think is good enough. At the moment, we're carrying too many passengers. And I wouldn't be surprised if, well, let me put it this way. I would be surprised if some are not shifted on. But let's see. I think, personally, he needs at least 4 transfer windows to be able to really implement the style to go with the player that he wants. But saying that, if we continue on a downward trajectory and all of a sudden we find ourselves in serious danger, what do we do? Because for me, that's a double-edged sword. What do we do? We're then stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because he's got to get the best out of the players that he's got. He can only work with what he's got. But surely, if we do spiral, there will come a time when questions will be asked of him. I really hope it doesn't. I pray to God that it doesn't. But I think there will come a time. Oh, I just don't want it to happen. I really don't. It gives me the fear, I have to be honest. Oh, we just got to win tomorrow. My God, we just have to win. John Bleasdale came back to say, also, how many clubs in the league, including the Glasgow 2, would sell out in a weight allocation on the back of a 13-game winless run? What a great support we have. I said it the same, John, on a social media post the other day. Honestly, our fans are sensational. Andy B says, with all the focus being on the defence, our scoring record really is appalling. Hopefully a few goals tomorrow. Kirsten came back to say, yep, Palaversa needs to start over Nielsen, and I hope Jimmy realises that. Andrew Medford says, surely Palaversa must start. Scott McLean says, can't have both Shinnie and Nielsen starting tomorrow. Both too slow. Palaversa must start. I agree. Andrew Medford said, Boyd scored at Easter Road already. Why not again? Terry's here, talking about Terry. He says, can't see the win tomorrow. We score first, then maybe. They score first, it's all over. West Coast Dawn says, we will give a team a proper doing at some point. We've got good players, new players getting up to speed, and injuries to deal with. We'll come good again. Kaiser just said, just heard we're signing Turkish striker Faz Atman. Oh my God. Do you remember that time Sky Sports News read out, what was it, the thing about Avon? Your dad sells Avon or something like that. Oh my God. Oh, I'm on the hoops, come on. That's totally unfair. Totally unfair. Andrew Medford says, we have to persevere with Nisbet. He is a striker, so he needs service. To me, he does okay with the chances he gets. Toppy was doing okay too. We just need confidence and a centre-back. Kilted Warriors on, wishing everybody a good evening. West Coast Dawn, I like this, mate. He said, quite simply, we won't lose tomorrow. Deck G says, good evening, Ali and the Dandies. 3 points, please, as we've got to win sometime. It would be good to get one over Hibs after the 3-3 draw. Scott McLean says, he thinks Devlin needs a rest. Jensen to right back, Mackenzie back in at left back. Neom says, we need creation too. Clarkson is not doing it. Barry Cole says, JT needs to play 4-4-2, but he won't. Dave B's reminding everybody, Fergie at Man United, stay tough, see it through. Alexander Wallace said, some people need 4 windows in their houses after last week's storm. David. Kaiser says, Talene should be getting more out of that squad. Every team in Scotland would kill for a squad like us. Duncan Forbes says, with Paul Vara injured, who do we have to replace Nielsen? Palaversa can do Shinnie's 8, but never a 6. Interesting. Right, guys. I see you're all having fun at the bottom of the chat here. Brilliant. One last thing to do before we say goodnight. One last thing to do. So don't forget to press the old like. Just helps with the old algorithm. Thank you for your comments as always. It's brilliant having you so many on tonight. Nearly 200 of you watching tonight, which is great. And always, if you would please consider subscribing to the channel just so that we can build our numbers. That would also be muchly appreciated. We're getting closer now to 4,200. We're really motoring on. Right, so we're at that juncture where we sign off by wishing the boys the very best of luck tomorrow. First and foremost, if you're going to Easter Road tomorrow, have a safe and have a brilliant trip. Let's see, come 2 o'clock tomorrow, or around about 10 to 2 tomorrow, the team that's picked. I hope it's a positive team. What I don't want us to do tomorrow is, I'm not keen for us to play out from the back. I just have a feeling that they're going to press us very high, very much like what St Mirren did last week. I do hope we can play with, and I understand some of your comments about marauding fullbacks. But we have to pick and choose, I think. And when you look at the goals last week, yes, the first goal was a horrific mistake. Yes, the second goal was terrible defending. And the third goal was also terrible defending. But all three of them came from balls over the top. When our fullbacks went forward and left huge gaps where our centre-backs had to come out either side. So I have no issue with them getting back, but first and foremost, please don't forget your first job, and your first job is to defend. Go and support, absolutely, but defend. Because they will hit us tomorrow. And I think they're going to try and unsettle us very, very quickly. So as we always say on the show, it's really important that we start the game positively, that we get on the ball, and for God's sake, retain the ball. Don't give away cheap possession. Make them work hard for the ball. We don't make our opponents work hard enough. And that has become a real source of frustration for me. We simply don't make them work hard enough when we have possession. So make them work. If we get the first goal, I think anything can happen. But I think it's imperative that we do not concede the first goal tomorrow. So let's see what happens. We'll be back for the review show on Sunday night. Have a fantastic Friday night. Have a fantastic Saturday. Thank you so much for being with us. And I'll see you again on Sunday. Come on, Dons. Let's do this. Stand free.